magic sprinkling that I have that everyone else doesn't have.
Yes.
You can do so many things now yourself with AI. As a sole trader, as a small business, for you, it's an amazing tool. You got to do your homework, understand your market, and be sure that you've got the credentials, you've got the assets, you've got the cash flow to actually deliver.
Well, Theo, welcome to the Small Business Sessions. Thank you so much for joining me.
Pleasure to be here. Thank you for the tea.
No problem. Enjoy that cup of tea in our podcast living room.
Very smart.
We've got so much to talk to you about, so let's get started. So I want you to take me back to where it all began. I believe you ran a tuck shop at school, which is where a lot of entrepreneurs kind of start with their entrepreneurial experience.
I know, I've heard that lots of times. I mean, it really was for me, but I was dyslexic at school, so I was pretty useless in class. And I had about active imagination. I'm bright, so I wasn't thick, although I was in all the thick classes. I mean, basically, it's thick. You can go to the third stream, fourth stream, fifth stream. But my friends were actually in the first stream. So I was pretty bored. That was noticed by one of the teachers who suggested that I should find some form of stimulus. And so I joined the student union, where I caused even more havoc. And then we came up with the idea of running a tuck shop. We didn't have a tuck shop. And of course, they were also pleased to give me the time off school or the lessons, missed lessons, for me to organise running this tuck shop, which was great fun. And it was, it didn't come without its problems.
Yes.
But I thoroughly enjoyed it. And yeah, it was for me the first time I was actually doing something entrepreneurial to make money. I already had jobs. So I used to work in a wimpy bar on a weekend. And then I also worked delivering called mini cab cards, basically the taxi cards. It was, if you needed a taxi, you have to go in the phone book. No one's going to know what a phone book was, but we used to get them delivered to our homes, great big books about this thick, or a Yellow Pages book, and you have to find a taxi company. So we used to drop cards through the letterbox, and I used to pay £3 per, I can't remember how many thousands I delivered, but I'd put a few in at a time, So I already was out there working because I needed the money. It was basically a single parent family living in a council tenement block. So there wasn't a lot of cash around. And there was always food, but not always heat and not always money for clothes, and certainly not peer pressure stuff that we now become so prevalent. Then in those days, you just saw it being worn at school, right? You didn't see it bang on your phone every 2 minutes. I must have this latest whatever. So yeah, so it was quite exciting, and it was great because I managed to mess up quite a few times. I managed to find solutions for problems, and I managed to succeed. And those are all great experiences.
So you mentioned there how you're dyslexic, and you've talked about that a lot. You're public about all of that, and you've called it before. It's your superpower. So how do you think that I mean, it obviously affected you then academically, but you found other ways to achieve. So how do you think it's affected you throughout your entrepreneurial journey?
It affected me at school because I wasn't able to take any exams, and I was rubbish. But I think it was clear to me that I wasn't thick. And it's clear to some teachers that was the case, but no one really talked about dyslexia, or I don't know even if the word even existed in those days. But there clearly was a problem, whether it was attention span or that was the thing that they used to put it down. Oh, you're just not concentrating. You need to concentrate. Your attention span, there's nothing to do with attention span. I can sit there, talk to you all day, and listen to you all day. It'll go in one ear and come out the other sometimes, or actually having to read something and take it in. Well, you might as well go for a walk or go on holiday and come back and see if I've managed to do it. It takes me so long, and then to absorb it. So exams were rubbish, but I did have peer pressure. And as I said earlier, many of my friends were in the top streams. And I played football with these guys, played rugby with these guys, did my socialising with these guys. And I did feel slightly inferior. And now and again, kids can be cruel, as we all know.
Yeah.
So I enjoyed a bit of that. But I'm a resilient so-and-so, so I was able to give some back. But not everybody can. And because of that, I had to find workarounds, ways of delivering what was expected of me, but not in the way that it was taught to me to actually deliver. But the answer would be there. And I would find loads and loads of workarounds, but it would take me a lot longer to do my work or my homework. To do what my friends could do in half an hour would take me 1.5 to 2 hours to do. So that's a big difference. So I leave school with a Scottish certificate in colouring in maps. And that was a Scottish certificate in geography, right? It was my only. I leave school with the harshest school report you could give to somebody if you wanted to crush them, which I still have.
Right.
And I still publicise, because it was one of my biggest motivators, or one of my motivators. I got to work eventually, and I must have applied 1,000 times. In those days, you wrote in, they'd send you an application form, you filled in an application form, you sent it back with a stamped addressed envelope, and then they would write back to you whether you were going to get an interview or not, or not write back at all. And I've got to tell you, every one of those responses were, thank you very much for applying. No. And you knew it. The minute you saw the envelope with your bestest handwriting on the outside, it wasn't brilliant. You knew that was the case. But eventually, I did get a job because I was sitting in an employment bureau, as we used to call in those days, in the city, just sitting there, waiting for them to get me interviews on spec. And I did get a job. It was brilliant insofar as I made a great cup of tea. I enjoyed the social aspect of it. I enjoyed working with the people. I became part of the team very quickly. But unfortunately, my job was, apart from being an assistant to the tea stirrer and making the tea, did involve a lot of filing.
Right.
So I was a filing clerk, and I used to have to deal with a telex machine. I won't go explain what that is. And of course, nobody could find anything because I'm dyslexic. And that was really the first signs. I would try and find solutions, and I was brilliant at finding solutions and workarounds. So that was good, except that particular job probably wasn't my finest moment. And after about a year, when the government subsidy for employing me finished, right, I was being paid £1,200 a year, and the employment subsidy from the government for a first-time job school leaver was 1,200. And when that finished, that was it. They did call me in and say, we really enjoyed having you here. You've been brilliant. We don't know how we're going to cope without you, but we're going to give it a go.
So that what you've said all about, finding solutions, do you think has that stayed with you? And it's that's from your dyslexia,
without
basically. Yeah.
doubt. If ever I've got to thank the Almighty for giving me those challenges at school and all the miserable times I had and all the tough times I had, has given me such an advantage when I left school that I was able to capitalize on that, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without it. Now, saying that, clearly we're all very different, and I was able to cope with those challenges emotionally, mentally. Not everybody can. So we do need to realize it's not, one size fits all when it comes to dyslexia and difficulties at school. We're all made differently. For me, I was motivated by the fact that I needed to succeed. I didn't want to be considered being thick. I want to be like those boys over there and girls over there. So it drove me, and I found solutions, but not everybody can. But it definitely, when I went to the place of work, was a great talent that very few people had.
So from that T-boy job, I mean, you started your own property company, didn't you then? Fast forward to, was it 23? You became, yeah.
23.
Was it 23?
Oh, age 23.
Age 23.
2023.
No, 2023.
Oh,
no, that's an exclusive. But
it was property finance.
Yeah.
It wasn't, no, it was property finance. It was about 22, I think, something like that. But it wasn't far after my 21st birthday. Yeah. And you know, I used to work for, I managed to get a job working for an insurance company and then managed to get promoted. I had a company car, cheap mortgage. In those days, yes, when you work for an insurance company, interest rates were like 10%, 11%, but your mortgage was like 2%. So, and the tax man didn't tax you on it. And I had a company car and the tax man didn't tax you on it. I say it was the only reason I took that job, right? Because
house and a car.
It meant, because by that time I'd met Mrs. P at that very first job. So when I left there, we're going out, and we got married when I was 18.
Right, okay.
Dominic, my first key came around when, gosh, I must have been 20, 21, 20. So needed somewhere to live, and I took that job. And I enjoyed that job, and it opened my eyes to lots and lots of things. And again, it was problem solving, which I was good at. I found ways of dealing with the written word. I found workarounds. I learned to, early days of computers. I taught myself to program, and I wrote all sorts of little programs on little handhelds in those days to deal with these things. I wanted more. And I was dealing with brokers who, I had a car, a Vauxhall Chevette. It was a typical salesman's car. It was such a cheap, it was 1.3 L. I don't know what the L stood for. I think it was meant for luxury, but there wasn't very much luxury. It was rust-coloured. So I'd go and see these brokers, and they would have Porsches, and even the juniors would have Golf GTIs, and those things motivated me. My income was limited, but I did have all these perks. So after much ado and chatting with Mrs. P, we discussed it, and I said I want to go out my own, which means I would have to leave L&G. I'd have to give back the company car. The cheap mortgage stayed for a year after he left. So you had a year of cheap mortgage.
Right. So that was a motivation then to
Correct.
make the money.
Yeah. And go out my own. And it was finance, raising finance, basically. Mortgages, commercial mortgages.
So what was it like then? That was your very first, proper business, starting a business.
I had rented a room from one of my clients, which was barely 10 foot by 6 foot, 7 foot. And I put 2 desks in there, and get a phone line put in. That was my biggest expense. So I had a telephone number. There was no mobile phones in those days, so you wouldn't have to worry about that. But I needed someone to answer the phone. So I went to the job centre, and they sent a girl round, the lovely Josephine Cox, née Farwell. And she had never had a job before. And just what did I do? I said, well, you got to answer the phone when I'm not in the office because I'll be out. And then she said, I said, right, and then there's some typing. She said, that'd be great, but do we have a typewriter? Good point. So I had to go and buy a typewriter. And it was great because she actually was, hadn't done a huge amount of schooling, but her English was excellent. And she could type. She taught herself to type. That was it. That was my godsend. I felt liberated because somebody could do all my letters, read all my communications, do all of that for me. And I could go out, press the flesh, and do my job, find new customers and do my job.
So that's your first, like they say, entrepreneurs basically outsource, do what you do best and outsource the rest is a common phrase.
And I've been doing that ever since.
Quite a fast forward now, but you're obviously known for turning around brands like Ryman and Robert Dias. So do you want to talk a bit about your approach to that when you take on a business like that? There's some common issues that you've discovered when you've taken them on, and how have you turned it around, and what lessons would you give to other people?
Well, I think the first thing is how you buy them, to make sure that you buy them right. And then secondly is understanding them. For me, it's dead simple. I would just get all the store managers I'd rent somewhere to get them all in, and I'd have all the people from head office on the stage with me, and then I would let the store managers let rip and tell me what was wrong with the business.
Yeah.
Because they're basically running they're running their own little businesses in each one of their shops, and they had their own gripes. They had their own reasons why they weren't doing well. It wasn't because they were all rubbish. I'm sure there was one or two rubbish ones there, and there was loads of excellent ones there, and there was some average ones there. It's just life, right? People. So it was really important to listen. It still is really important to listen to the people at the sharp end. Separate the bull from the poo, as they say. I wasn't going to use the word poo. I was going to bid the word with S, but I realise you're broadcasting this somewhere where children might be able to get hold of it.
We are on YouTube, so you never know.
Although I've probably heard it before.
Yeah, exactly.
Choice language. And common sense. Business is common sense. You know, people talk about Dragon's Den and say, where Mr. Paphitis, where did the BBC get all these people from, you know, that don't know their numbers, come and ask you for money, haven't done their homework. Well, obviously, welcome to the great British business public, whether it's a small business or a big business. All those things have to be done. And people got to be focused. So for me, it was very much understanding the business, listening to the people at the sharp end, using common sense. There's no magic sprinkling that I have that everyone else doesn't have. But I'm focused. I am determined. I'm relentless. I don't leave things alone. And retail is detail. And that's something that I learned very early at the school. You've got to do the detail. Because if I didn't do the detail, I was...
Is that something that thing about, you know, talking to the store managers constantly, is that something you've carried on? Is that are you still doing that? Or I guess you've got people to do that. Or...
I have lots of people to do that. And I irritate them by actually doing exactly that, walking into stores.
Right, okay.
And talking. And I never tell the store manager off. It's not my job. I'm paying someone else for that, aren't I?
That's true.
So sometimes the store, you know, the area manager will ring the store manager and say, oh, I think it's been in. Yeah, it all went well. Yeah, he was fine. He was happy. Of course, then he gets a blast from me. I said, I spoke to the manager. They said, you were happy. It's not my job to tell them off. It's your job to tell them off. Everyone's got to do their job. So I do love that interaction with the people at the sharp end.
What is it like running high street retail right now? Obviously, it's a challenging time. So what is it? You're running a lot of them. So what is it like in 2025 or 2026 when people might be watching this? But what is it like?
It's tough. It's really, really, really tough. I mean, there's been a lot of headwinds, very little growth. We've had inflation. We've had very heavy taxation on business. The cost of employing people is probably the highest. It is the highest as a percentage that it's ever been as part of your turnover and profits. And it's difficult. So you do have to adapt. And it's not always great. We've got growth elsewhere where other companies are taking your lunch. Now, I don't mind that. The competition's good, right? But it's got to be on a level playing field. You can't have companies not paying their tax and competing with you. Well, what chance have we got? So we do need legislation to cover stuff like that, where foreign companies are trading here, taking income out of the UK, competing with UK companies, but without paying their VAT, not paying all the VAT, paying the taxes, making no contribution to the social fabric of the economy and society. That's not fair. So this is where government does need to intervene. Retail's not looking for handouts, right? We're big boys and girls. We got our big pants on, right? We're happy to work with the cards that we're dealt. If you're being dealt 5 and I'm being dealt 4, it's a bit tricky for me to compete with you.
Yeah. I mean, business rates is the big one. And like, you know, I've been a journalist writing about small businesses for over 20 years, and the amount of business rate reform papers I've written
We have had so many muppets in government, various governments over the last 20 years, who have pretended to deal with business rates and then come up with absolutely nothing because it's difficult for them. All those people, all those ministers, historically, I would like to get into a room and ask them why, now they're not in government, they were so incompetent and useless and took the taxpayers' money as salaries so they can put their snout in the gravy train and move on. I'm hoping that this present government does not fall into that sphere and actually does do what they promised to do prior to the election. And of course, there is a white paper out now for business reform.
Yeah.
And we're hoping to hear something at the end of 2025 when the next budget is. And we wait to hear with bated breath. So at the moment, all the signs are positive. I don't know when someone's going to be watching this interview before or after. So you will know. Some of you will know I'm talking nonsense. So there you go.
Maybe we have a solution.
And it didn't happen. Or some of you, you'll know, yeah, but Theo, it happened. Yes, it happened.
Yeah. Do you have what? I mean, it's not your job, but do you have any idea? What do you think they should do on that front? I mean, let's not do a whole 20 minutes on.
Listen, I'm not going to do a whole 20 minutes on business. Well, I have been consulted and other people have been consulted, but it's not for the first time, right?
No.
So I've explained that it's not a level playing field, right? We can't have parts of the cake being taken by people not paying their taxes. So you need to start taxing other people that are getting away tax-free and reducing the tax on the people that are paying and what is now an inordinate amount compared to their turnover and profit. So there has to be a far more balanced taxation, or otherwise you will lose the high street and everything will be online and most of it will go to foreign companies that are not paying their tax, and you're going to kill our economy, you're going to kill our societies, and then we're going to have other social issues. And if I may say so, we're beginning to see those already, and it's looking very dangerous. Let's get our governmental big pants on and not worry about what some other people might say and do the job that the majority of the country needs.
Big thanks to Vodafone Business for sponsoring this podcast as part of our business.connected campaign, which helps small businesses tap into the power of digital connectivity. With business.connected, get support on the technologies and digital business areas that can help you and your business work smarter. Grow online with expert guidance, peer insights, digital skills training, and smart connectivity solutions. To learn more, head to enterprisenation.com/business connected. Obviously, you're known for being in the den for a while, and then you came back, didn't you, temporarily? Twice? Was it twice? I mean, you've been asked so many questions about the den, but, you know, people are interested, you know, in the show and how it works and what really happens behind the scenes. So what is it that makes you say, or made you say, maybe you'll go back, I'm in to businesses that walked into that room?
Well, it changed, in fairness. The first season we did it, we were making it up as we went along because we had 5 egos in a room, successful egos that normally got their own way in their own businesses, having to fight for airtime. And the I'm in or I'm out didn't actually exist. Wasn't scripted.
Right. Okay.
So that came about just naturally from, you know, the discussions that we were having, and they said, I'm out, you know, or I'm in. And then it became part of the show that you had to say, I'm out or I'm in at the end to show everybody you are either in or you're out, or are you still in? You know, well, just say it. You see it many times, you know, me saying to Peter Jones, shut the what's it up. Just, you know, are you in or are you out? Just say it. And he would carry on talking, you know, and then he'd be quiet. So, well, just say it. Because he was still in, but he didn't want to say he was still in.
So what? Yeah. So what is it then? Because obviously, what we see on the show, as we all, the pitches can be 2-3 hours, can't they? And
Pitches
in reality,
sometimes, but not anymore. Those days are gone.
oh, are they?
Yeah, no, we were useless. As far as the BBC were concerned, because they'd want you to get through like 8 pitches in a day, and a day would be you'd be in the studio, arrive at the studio 8:30, be on set 9:30 after you have your makeup on and change and everything else. Turn up in your jeans, and then there'd be a suit. You'd bring suits in. Normally in those days it was 2 suits, 2 shirts, identical, so they had continuity, so they could mix the program from week 1, day 2, with week 5, day 3, and make it into an interesting episode. Sometimes we'd only get through 4. And there's a cost to having a studio, right? And God knows how many cameras in those days. It wasn't automated as it is now. And we really didn't have an idea who was coming up those stairs in those days. No lift. Up the stairs, it could have been, man, woman, dance troupe, a dog, orangutan, you had no idea.
Yeah.
So everything was a shocking surprise. And we'd fight along, and not everything made it onto the screen. They would have a montage. So we'd say at the end, oh, that was useless, wasn't it? That'll be a montage. So we just wasted 2 hours on a montage. And the montage would be halfway through the show. They would put 4 or 5 pitches together, just the highlights of them for 2 minutes.
Yeah, 3 minutes. Also on the Den.
Yeah, exactly. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
So we didn't get through a lot. And that was difficult because the public would see a 10-minute pitch or a 15-minute pitch, and the 10-minute, 15-minute pitch and discussion really was 3 hours or 4 hours, and it got quite tiring. And there's a lot more detail involved than you actually saw. But what was brilliant, you saw telly, you saw entertainment with business. And that made it interesting for people. And it awakened people's entrepreneurial spirit because they felt it. And they said, we'd all sit there and criticize, just like we watch football. He's useless. Why did they pay 50 million for him? He's pathetic, or she's pathetic, And we all have an opinion, right? No different when watching Dragons Den. Useless. I mean, didn't know numbers. Why'd they go on the show?
Why did they do their homework?
Oh, God,
Yeah.
So it's great. It gives everyone an ability to have an opinion.
Yeah. What are some of the most memorable pitches that you can remember over the years?
I never do this. That question I never answer.
You never like that question?
No, I don't like that question because there was just loads, and it was thousands. And there'd be good days and there'd be bad days in the Den. I mean, if Duncan Ballantyne was having a miserable day, which is quite often.
It was every day, wasn't
it? Yeah, exactly. Then it made it miserable for everybody. No, sorry, Dunks, I'm only taking the mickey, mate. No, but there was good days and there's bad days. There was when pitches were really poor, wasting our time, but you're trying to make telly, so you're trying to find something interesting. So you end up listening for a discussion for 2 hours on something that you were never going to invest in, trying to find something interesting to say. And all you want to say is, get the hell out of here. You're wasting my time.
Yeah.
I know, but that wouldn't make good telly and it would have lasted 30 seconds, right?
Yeah. What about Trunky? I know you're asked about Trunky a lot, aren't you?
What about Trunky?
Well, it was you that sat on it and the handle.
I didn't sit on it.
No.
I just went like that and it fell apart.
Oh, yeah. Because I know Rob, and Rob's from Bristol, where I'm from, so I know that.
Legend in his own lunchtime.
I'll pass on your regards. But yeah, so Dragon's Den, lovely. Well, now moving on, SBS. So SBS is Small Business Sunday, which is your community that you started in 2010. I'm a winner, just saying.
Congratulations.
Thank you very much. So do you want to tell us a bit about it and how it all began and what it has become? It's like, it's 15 years this year, isn't it? Yeah.
So basically it came out the Den. So there I was in the green room in between pitches, and smartphones were out, just come out, and this thing called Twitter had exploded onto the scene, now known as Musk's X,
yes,
Dr. Evil's world domination plan and influence of the whole world. along with TikTok that now will be American in America, and will also carry the same subliminal messages to you all, and we'll all be robots. It's amazing. It's amazing what happens 15 years on from this explosion of social media, which was brilliant. And so I joined it, and Jonesy, tall fella, joined it. And all the way through the day, we're comparing how many followers we got. You know, I got so many, I got so many. Anyway, by the end of the week, I had 50,000 followers, which I thought was brilliant, right? So I went home after filming, and it was on a Friday. On the Sunday, Mrs. P could see me fiddling with my phone. She said, well, what are you doing on your phone? For goodness sake, put it down. I said, Nana, you got to see this. She said, what is it? I said, it's called Twitter. I've got 50,000 followers. And she said, whoopee woo, lucky you. What are you going to do with them? I said, no, you don't understand. I said, I can tweet them and tell them things, and they can communicate back to me. I said, well, do you really want 50,000 people sending you messages? You're going to sit in the corner? I said, no. I said, do you remember all those years ago when we had our little 2 up, 2 down terraced house, and I was working, I just left L&G and started my own business. And on a Sunday night, we'd bath the kids and we'd take them upstairs, and then I'd sit, we didn't have a study or a best room or anything else. I'd sit in the corner, right, and on a Sunday night, and prepare for Monday, because I have to hit the ground running, all my appointments, who I'm going to call and everything else. And she says, yeah. And I did that for years and years and years and years and years. Much after I needed to, right? Because it just became a habit of, I've got to go to work on a Monday, hit the ground running, let's prep. I said, yeah. I said, well, can you imagine if I was able to hit 50,000 people? Oh, well, I could have marketed my services. She said, yeah, but you couldn't. There wasn't phones in those days. So, get over it. I said, no, I've got over it. I don't need to do it anymore. I said, but those people, that are now following me, majority of them are small businesses. So what if I could allow them to broadcast to the other 50,000 their business, and see if anybody's interested in doing business with them and hearing about their business? And she said, that's a good idea. So anyway, while she was pottering around in the kitchen, I then sent a tweet out in the first 6 people, my favorite 6 people that send me a tweet, I will retweet. Send me a tweet about your business. And anyway, next thing I know, beep, 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 our phone's going mental. And there's people sending me little information about their business. So again, I said to her, look, how many people are contacting me? So we both sat there having to sift through all those people to find 6. And there was no particular science. It's just what sounded interesting.
Yeah.
So I retweeted those 6. Forgot all about it. Following Sunday, about the same time, beep, 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 beep. People are retweeting again. So it created itself. So I worked out they were telling me their businesses. So we found another 6. And thanks everybody. And I said as a joke, I'll see you next Sunday, same time, same place. Oh my God. And it started. And it's from getting 100, 200 tweets, I was getting 1,000 tweets, 1,500 tweets, 2,000 tweets. It became impossible to manage. So I had to take it into the office. And we had to sort of leave the choosing till Monday because I needed help, and limit the time between sort of 5 and 7:30, and just 6 people. It became its own life, and people started contacting each other. We created a website for it. Then people said, how about having an event? And we had an event, and our first event, we had like 400 people turn up, which I thought was amazing. Now we get thousands. Then they started creating their own groups. And then we worked out that actually give them more information. We put marketing information on the website, things to contact, newspapers to contact, and winners could then put a draft press release that we would supply them with to their local newspaper, where it takes the cat stuck up on tree story off the front page and says local business wins Theo Paphitis SBS award. Then create boot camps around the country for them and create all these communities. And we've got about 4,500 small businesses now. And we've been doing it for 15 years. And I've never been so proud of something that we did in the kitchen.
Yeah.
With Mrs. P rambling with me about it. That now it's got its own sustainability. And it's got sustainability. And it's got a future and growth, hopefully much after me.
Yeah. I mean, you said, we were talking just before we came on, that so there's a day every year that winners could go to, which I've been to, which is mainly, you say it's such a, for you, it's one of the
it's such
big
an
days
energizing.
of the year.
I said to you earlier, I feel guilty because I feel I have soaked in all that positiveness, all that excitement about their future and their business. They all want to be big businesses and unicorns. Many won't. Of course they won't. But they'll have a good lifestyle business, right? And if we can make their life more successful, quicker and better, that's what SBS does. Over 50%, you know this stat, of businesses fail in the first couple of years. Why should they? And lots of those people go on to create another business, by the way, and are successful. So why should they have the pain and the scars? Just because there isn't an education program, there isn't the help out there for them to succeed first time. And that's what we try and do. Just make that journey a more positive journey, a more successful journey, less scars, less pain, less tears. You'll still get some, by the way. It does happen in business. Yeah. It's very rare you don't get all of those. So if you're going to start your own business, be aware. So, just a little bit less and help them. And when they're having a tough time, as many micro businesses done, especially sole traders, it's great to know you've got a contact book of half a dozen, 100 other people who are in your industry doing what you're doing. You can contact, you can send a tweet to, you can send a WhatsApp to, and there'll always be somebody who's having a good time and can share that good time with you and help you revitalize again.
Yeah, amazing. It is a good community. So Small Business Sunday, get involved. Sort of related to that on sort of the emotional side of it, do you ever get imposter syndrome?
I get it every single day. Every single day I do something like this.
Really? So
yeah,
still?
Absolutely. Still every single day. And it's quite common. And it's very good. I mean, I told you earlier, I left school with a Scottish certificate in colouring and maps. 2 weeks ago, I became a visiting professor at Derby University.
Oh, yes, I saw that, yes.
I'm a professor. Yeah. I could call myself a professor.
Yeah, sorry, Professor Theo, I should have said.
Thank you very much. Could I ever do that? No. I mean, it's comical to think about it in my own mind, but there were hundreds of people applauding me, giving me a eulogy about all the things that I've done and why I deserve to be a professor. And I'll be giving, I'm there giving lectures every term to the students, and they'll be listening to me. And I said, why would they want to listen to me? It's very, very difficult. Then you sometimes have to take a step back and just go through all the things that you've been through and learn from that actually other people haven't. And you need to share those. And that's the way I look at it.
We're coming to an end, but I just want to squeeze in a couple of questions from the community. So Danielle Knights from Live and Love Music, who is also an SBS winner. So she said, what are your thoughts on AI and that's expected to take over many jobs in the future? And what tips would you advise small business owners to protect themselves and stay ahead?
Right. I was and still am a fan of AI, but I'm beginning to think it's a bit like taking drugs.
Addictive.
It's a fantastic tool. And I use it a lot. But I find myself totally reliant on it. And I am addicted. First thing, if I don't know something, it's the first thing I do. And I can tell you, in the past, if I needed to prepare for something, I would have to get somebody in the office to do a whole lot of research. And it'd be somebody's job for a week to prepare me. If I was doing question time. Remember, dyslexia. Sometimes I get tongue-tied because of it as well. Today's a good day. I can ramble today. But you do get days where you can't. So, but you do Question Time on BBC. It's broadcast as live, so they don't edit it. So if you screw up, right? And you don't know what the subject matter is going to be or what the questions are going to be. But you know roughly it's going to be around the news, right? So somebody would spend a week or 2 weeks monitoring the news, researching. So the day before, they can pin me in a corner for 3 hours and brief me on everything that's happened and what's likely to come up and what is my opinion on it. Do I have an opinion? The worst thing you can do is go on there and say, I haven't got an opinion, right? What's the point of being there, right? So and what's my opinion on it? So you have to have an opinion. That was somebody's job. Well, quite honestly, that can be done now in a matter of an hour by AI. So it will have an effect on jobs, and it will make life for small businesses, quite honestly, a lot better, because as a small business now, you can create a marketing plan. You can create a marketing video, right? You can create whatever you want, an advert. You can create a business plan. Right? You can do all of these things where you'd have to pay consultants, advertising agencies that wouldn't even take you on because you don't make enough money for them. So you can do so many things now yourself with the aid. So as a sole trader, as a small business, for you, it's an amazing tool. But you will get, and I'm an early adopter of everything, you will get addicted. And my concern is it has no barriers. And where's it going to go? Could it end up somebody sticking an algorithm in where it totally, completely corrupts us with our knowledge, our social fiber, our well-being, our mental well-being? There's a lot of dangers there. I don't think it's over. And I think it's a bit like the Wild West. So by all means, use it. It's a bit like alcohol. You get a good feeling with it, right? When you've had a drink, you take too much, you get very sick. Then you get addicted, and drugs and everything else. And that can damage you. But this could be just as dangerous, if not more. And I don't know where it's going to go, where its boundaries are, where its controls are. Who do you give the controls are? Do you give the controls to some megalomaniac, Dr. Evil, in their lair in some Caribbean island, right? Who then is controlling everything we do. But great tool for small businesses. Use it. It will help you. I do. And certainly you'll be able to do things. Big businesses, medium-sized businesses have got loads of people doing. You'll be able to do in your kitchen, in your living room, in your study area, at home, and actually be able to compete with some of those businesses without the resources.
You must be getting SBS pitches on AI. A lot of people must be. Give me the best tweet to send Theo for SBS. I'm sure there is. And just finally, Alison Battersby from Avocado Social, what would be your biggest tip for small businesses looking to scale in 2026?
Alison, that's very, very easy. It's exactly the same as 2025, and it will be 2027 and 2024. You've got to do your homework, understand your market, and be sure that you've got the credentials, you've got the assets, you've got the cash flow to actually deliver. Not always first time, because it will take, sometimes it takes a couple of goes, your aims and ambitions in that scaling. No different. You just got to know the cards you're dealt with. And the cards will be whatever 25 gives you, whatever 26 gives you, whatever 24 gives you. So exactly, you've just got different cards.
Fabulous. Theo, I could go on for hours, but unfortunately we've come to an end. So thank you so much for joining me on the Small Business Sessions.
Absolute pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You've been watching Enterprise Nation's Small Business Sessions podcast powered by Vodafone Business as part of our business.connected campaign. For free digital skills training, head to enterprisenation.com/business-connected or search business.connected. Don't forget to like the video, share it, and subscribe to our channel. We'll see you next time.